Hello everybody, Van Stewart here,
And Jen Stewart.
and welcome to our latest travel video. Today is January 21st, 2025, and it is a very cold day in Rockford, Illinois. And it's also Jen's birthday, so happy birthday to Jennifer.
Thank you.
And let's start off by talking about our new video, which is titled Traveling Onward to Kenya. Last time we talked about our first leg of the journey in Germany, in Frankfurt, Germany, and that was really exciting. We had a great time in Frankfurt. We got to see some nice people, see some nice places, try out some really good food, and tour around the downtown areas of Frankfurt, Germany. And we put up a short. You can look and see some of the videos and some of the snippets of things we saw while touring through Frankfurt. I wish we had more time, and we do plan to go back, but it was a nice short stay in Frankfurt. And our friends who are actually her sister and her sister's husband plan to go back with us next time. So you'll see that in an upcoming video as well. But the experience in Frankfurt was something we'll never forget. But we had to leave Frankfurt to get to Kenya. So as we went back to the airport to head to Kenya, we had some crazy experiences in Frankfurt's airport. The folks are very friendly. It's a huge airport, so if you get there, you'll know what I mean. But one thing was very weird. We were in a rush to get through the check-in. She had 2 bags, I had 1 bag. We went through check-in. And then we decided to go through duty free. We had a little bit of time to spare to see if we wanted to buy any things to take with us to Kenya. After walking through duty free for a while, we realized we're missing a bag. I said, Jen, where's the other bag? She said, you have it. I said, no, you have it. So at that point, we realized we had to go back to the check-in and see if we left our bag there. In all the hub and baloo, I didn't realize which area we checked into. So I got a security guard to help us out, and they were so friendly. Security guard was a young man, and he took me all the way back around to go through all the check-in areas to see where we could have left our bag. And luckily, a woman noticed me and held up the red bag to show me that, no, your bag's over here. So we got the bag back, and we made our way to our gate. It was mostly her shoes and her personal items or extra things that we took that were in that bag, but I didn't want to pay for all that stuff again once we got to Kenya. So I'm quite glad we found the bag. But we got to our gate and got on our plane. And I want to talk briefly before we do that about something I didn't mention in the last video, was vaccinations. If you're going to go out of the country, you really need to make sure if there are any vaccination requirements where you're going. We had to take a yellow fever shot. And I did not know this, but yellow fever shots aren't that easy to come by. In bigger cities, you can go to your local county hospital or a clinic near you. Some Walgreens and CVS even offer those in bigger areas. But before this trip, I was actually in Alabama, and no clinics or hospitals or small stores like a Walgreens down there offered that. So I came back up to Illinois where we were leaving from, and I had to go take the shot there. And the shot was $350. I thought my insurance would pay for that, but they did not. So check into that with your insurances to see if they'll pay for your shots. I think your insurance paid for part of yours though, didn't it, Jennifer?
Correct. And the rest I used the HSA for.
Yeah, so if you have an HSA account, you can use it to pay for some of that to offset the cost. But as I said, check with your community hospitals too. I know in Winnebago County, here in Rockford, Illinois, they offer the shot, but at the time I needed it, they had no vaccines in stock. So I had to bite the bullet and pay that cost, which me being a tightwad, it wasn't fun. But we got that done, got into our plane, and on the plane, this is 2023, so COVID was kind of waning down, but there are still people who wore masks on the plane, including us. We did wear our masks. She's really conscious about that. I'm kind of a little less conscious now because I figured we made through it. And I have had COVID twice, and I think I'm moderately okay. But she made sure we wore a mask on the flight, and I'm glad we did. But Jennifer, you still had some issues, I think, during the flight, didn't you?
Correct. There was a gentleman behind us who coughed pretty much the whole flight to Frankfurt. So when I got off, I did have to stop at a pharmacy to get some cold medicine to make it the rest of the trip.
And it's quite unique how other countries' pharmacies are a little bit different than pharmacies in America. You know, we have to go to the doctor to get a prescription, take the prescription to a pharmacy, and they'll fill it. In Kenya, as well as in other places we visited, if you have an ailment, go to the pharmacy, tell them your problem, and they'll write you a prescription there and fill it there. So we went right to the pharmacy there in Kenya, and the mall, And she explained what she was going through, and they gave her several options of cough drops and syrups and all that. So it's a little bit different. I like it better that way personally. To me, it seems like you have more of a control over what's going on, and there's not the wait with getting a doctor visit and then going to your clinic or pharmacy to get it filled. So that part I thought was pretty cool. So she did have an issue in Germany, and later on we'll talk about what happened in Kenya. Had something happen over there too. Now, as far as the flight goes, we flew Lufthansa from O'Hare in Chicago to Frankfurt, Germany, and then we flew Lufthansa again from Frankfurt, Germany on to Kenya. And they have large planes, really nice planes. In fact, there's a short I'll upload with pictures of the plane as well, so you can see how large the plane was. But it was a very, very nice plane, very nice flight. And the food was a little bit different than we expected. You can select your meals when you book your flight online, which is kind of neat. But their descriptions are very strange. It just said meat option and vegetarian option, and that was really it. So I thought I'd try the meat option, and I let Jennifer try the vegetarian option. And the meat option, she called it mystery meat. I don't know what it was, but it didn't taste very good. So I kind of picked around and played with it. She had the veggie option. What'd you think of that veggie option?
It was good. I preferred that, and that's what I picked for the remainder of the flights that we had.
Yeah, I changed mine after seeing her veggie option, which looked a lot better. So on the next leg, I got the veggie option too. It was pretty good. And I was surprised too, because on US flights, when I've flown and they offer you a meal, it's pretty bland and blasé. That Lufthansa veggie option, it was some kind of a pasta risotto type thing with vegetables in it. It was very, very good. So I'm glad she made that change and I followed suit. So we did that, got on the plane to Nairobi, and it was a long flight, but it was a pretty uneventful flight. Unlike the flight on our first leg, which we talked about in our last video, where we had the emergency landing, which wasn't very fun. But the flight to Nairobi was very uneventful, very nice, very smooth. A big airplane with lots of people, great meal options. And we got to Nairobi roughly 9 o'clock at night, 9:30 at night. Very rainy night, very dark, but it was so cool just to land in Africa. My first time being on the continent, it just felt great. It's hard to describe the emotional feeling you get, especially from an African-American perspective, to go to Africa and actually walk on African soil. It felt so cool. But when we got off the plane, it was kind of nice that we got greeted by the airport staff. They were actually waiting for the plane to land. And then came the long lines. We waited, I want to say, for about an hour, maybe a little bit more, to get checked. They have shorter lines for the Kenyan residents, Kenyan citizens, and then the foreigners have to wait this long line to the right. And there's several of them, but they're very, very, very long. In fact, we kept trying to switch lines to see if one would move faster than the other. Didn't work. We were still some of the last people to go through, but it wasn't bad because the people were so friendly and so nice, and they were talking to us. And I even asked the guys about where to go eat. We wanted some good food. So we found out some decent restaurants to go to. We actually did visit one of the options that they presented to us, and it was really a good time. So that was fun. But when we got there, what did you think about when we first got there? How did you feel when you landed in Nairobi?
It kind of reminded me of my trip to St. Lucia. So all the lines and, of course, the residents have shorter lines, and the foreigners have the longer lines, but it was very similar. So that's what kind of caught my attention. Yeah. Very similar to that.
And one thing I did notice too, and I did the same thing in Frankfurt, when you get off the plane and you're landing in the airport, you're going through all the security and all the customs and all that, they do have people there to exchange money. They have ATM machines there. And if you have cash, you can either exchange your cash for the local currency or get some at the ATM and exchange that for currency. And at the time, I think I spoke about the 145 to 1 Kenyan shillings to the US dollar. We checked a few moments ago, and now it's 129.5 to 1. So it's not as sweet as it was back then, but that's still a pretty good bang for your buck, getting that extra kick for converting our money to the Kenyan shillings. And if you are aware of that, you can kind of use that to kind of pick and choose where you want to spend your money and save some things. We talked about that on the last video, how to make sure you don't get taken on the exchanges. The Mzunga tax, if you remember that, they talk about that and how that can really go against you if you're not aware of it. So be careful when you go out and shop. We talked about safety as well, so make sure you're aware of the safety as you're going out there to new places and you're seeing sights and whatnot. But that was pretty much how it was when we landed in Nairobi, Kenya. It was so much fun. And the great part about it, we didn't have to go pick up a rental car. We booked a driver before we got there. And James, our driver, was there waiting for us outside, and it was great because I don't know if I could drive in Kenya. The driving is a little bit erratic. Plus, it was a rainy night. I don't know where I'm going. I'm in a foreign country. So I'm glad that we had James there to help us out and get us through. What'd you think about James?
I thought James was great. Again, it reminded me of the drivers that we had in St. Lucia, and it really put us at ease since were in a new country, and we liked him so much that we asked that he was available for us for the rest of the week.
Yeah, we got lucky because we booked our travel. I forget which vacation company we used, but James's services were included in the package from the airport to the hotel. So during our ride to the hotel, we asked James, hey, what do you know about getting a driver? He said, well, if you want to hire me, I can be your driver. So we made a deal right there with James, and he became our driver for the entire stay, which was great because he knew Kenya like the back of his hand. He was not born in Kenya, but he lived there for about 30 years. So he knew everywhere to go and everything to do. So if you have the option, make sure if you're in a country where you're not familiar, get a driver. If you can afford that, by all means do so. Well, I tell you what, we're at about 11 minutes. I don't want to take too long, but on our next video, we're going to talk to you guys about what we saw, what we did, what we ate, the safari tour and all that things in Kenya. But trust me, you're going to enjoy that. So check us out on the next video, and we'll see you then. Bye, everybody.
Good night.